This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance Stack is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland. Thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to the Farming Week, the podcast brought to you by Agriland and AXA, keeping you up to date with all the latest in Irish agriculture. I'm Charles O'Donnell and I'm joined by Aisling O'Brien and Agriland dairy specialist Hugh Harney. Well, we'll jump straight into the news of the week and start with the changes announced to the Economic Breeding Index. The Irish Cattle Breeding Federation and Teagasc have updated the dairy and beef valuations in the EBI, which is expected to result in significant changes to a herd's EBI figure. Hugh, before we get into the nitty-gritty of what's been announced, can you tell us what the rationale is behind these changes?
So yeah, Charles, there has been a major update or change to the EBI. I suppose the major changes to the EBI can be largely attributed to the updating of the base cow population and the revision of the economic values to best reflect recent and future projections of market prices. So look, the ICBFs always say that the aim of these changes is to accelerate genetic gain, support better health and management decisions, and enhance the profitability and sustainability of the national dairy herd. So look, I suppose it's just important to note, even though a farmer's EBI figure may look a bit miserable at the minute, the overall ranking of animals within their herd will almost be unchanged, because all animals their value will be decreased in the same vein. So I suppose we'll go on to the base cow first. So I suppose the previous base cow was related to cows born in 2005, first calved and milk recorded in the 2007 to 2009 period. So the new base will use cows born in 2015, first calved and milk recorded in the 2017-2019 period, which is far more reflective of the genetics in the national herd. So we're moving on another 10 years. The change in the base cow population will result in each animal's EBI reducing by €97. And this is actually a reflection of the amount of genetic progress achieved over the past 10 years, now that the base has been updated to a more recent cow cohort. Another reason why they're changing the EBI is because, as we know, and farmers know this best, that input costs have skyrocketed in the last couple of years. So I suppose these updates account for rising input costs such as increased feed and fertiliser prices, higher output prices and future market projections. So look, if we look at costs and we look at feed has went from €250 a tonne to €370 a tonne in that period. Fertiliser has went from €420 a tonne to €550 a tonne. And energy has went from 0.15 cent to 25 cent a kilowatt hour. So look, the updated economic values also account for labour costs along with higher output prices, and as I said, with future market projections in there as well. In the update, milk price is forecast at 40 cent a litre, including VAT, with a protein to fat ratio of 1.7 to 1. The heifer growth cost has been moved to the maintenance sub-index, which was previously accounted for in the beef sub-index. So this will, change the economic values within the EBI as well.
So Hugh, what exactly is being changed here and how is it likely to impact farmers on the ground?
Yeah, so Charles, as I said, the updated base will result in each animal's EBI reducing by €97. And look, all cows' EBI will reduce, but this does not necessarily mean that each cow's genetic merit has deteriorated. So look, when we look into that €97, what is that made up of? There is a €45 decrease in the milk sub-index, and this change is in the milk yield PTA, predicted transmittability, which milk yield will decrease by 74 kg, fat will decrease by 7 kg, protein will decrease by 5.6 kg, fat will reduce by 0.07% and protein by 0.05%. Then we go on to the fertility sub-index, and that will also drop by €52. as the calving interval PTA has increased by 2.66 days and the survival has decreased by 1.33%. So look, as I said, this keeps up with evaluations up to date today with today's cow, but doesn't change the ranking of bulls or cows, as even though the PTA figures for all animals shift up or down, they all shift by the same amount, and that's really important to note. I suppose the heifer rearing cost has been moved to the maintenance subindex, and that would have previously been in the beef subindex. So now the maintenance subindex has increased from 4% to 8%. The regional maintenance subindex would include 100% of the cost to maintain a cow, whereas the new subindex will be 63% cost to maintain the cow and 37% to grow a heifer, or the heifer rearing costs. This would have previously been in the beef subindex. The inclusion of heifer rearing costs in the maintenance subindex, amalgamated with the inflation of costs from feed to fertiliser, has increased the weighting of maintenance in the EBI, which is essentially rewarding lighter cows that can still produce good levels of milk. And I suppose probably important to note as well that the economic value applied to the cost of maintaining each additional kg of cow live weight has increased by 43%. But look, I suppose I have to mention as well, Charles, that due to the increase in the cull cow price and carcass weight, the beef sub-index for cows will see an average increase of €5. So this will actually be rewarding the bigger cows, and then the smaller cows will be penalised in the beef sub-index. People will see a drastic change in their maintenance sub-index, but it's probably nothing to be worried about. As farmers know, you're going to stay breeding the cow that you want to breed. So nothing's changed. It's just there is a slight inflation of that figure. So I suppose, look, move on to health and management evaluations, Charles. And I suppose for lameness and mastitis, records from multiple lactations are now used, so cows with repeated cases are better reflected in the evaluation. When it comes to temperament, the scale has been simplified from 5 points to 3 points, making it just quicker and easier to score a cow. Locomotion score, the linear locomotion scoring, is now used to help predict overall health, but this will just give a clearer picture of mobility issues. And the ICBF believes that there's better data checks and calculations. There's been an improvement in the way information is cleaned and analysed. The average farm will see a reduction of €83, with the average going from €194 to €111. So I suppose even if we look into the ICBF active bull list, Charles, the current EBI of the 100 bulls will go from 325 to 243, which is a decrease of €82, with 79 of those bulls still remaining in the top 100 active bull list. The majority of these bulls will have a negative milk kg PTA, and over 60% of the herds will be negative from milk kg, according to the ICBF. And I suppose this might cause a bit of a stir, because I know farmers like to see, and even we've seen it this year in the breeding season, a lot of farmers want to use positive milk bulls. And so look, that might be something that will cause a bit of a stir, but we'll see. There's a lot of changes in there, but I suppose the important thing to note for farmers is that, even though your EBI has taken a hit, in most cases it actually hasn't, as all cows in the country have decreased in line with your herd. So that's important to note. But a lot in there, Charles. So yeah, be interested to see where it goes from here.
Thanks for taking us through those details, Hugh. We're going to move on now and talk about an issue that arose last week when Dairygold announced a 3 cent per litre cut to its milk price for August supplies. A 3 cent per litre cut is one you don't see every day, and it has seemed to have generated considerable anger among the processor suppliers. Now, we covered that milk price cut on our special edition of the podcast last week from Ploughing 2025, but the story is progressing this week. Aisling, what's the latest?
So the very latest, Charles, is that the board of Dairygold is currently meeting with members as we speak to discuss the drop in the processor's milk price for August. As you said, last week we did cover how Dairygold decided to reduce that August quoted milk price down to 45 cent a litre, which was down 3 cent a litre compared to July's figure of 48 cent a litre. And that move, as you rightly said, it's been met with really strong criticism from farmers and farm organisations alike. Now, in a message to members last week, the board said that the purpose of the meeting in Mitchelstown today was to provide a business update to address any queries that members might have and to explain the rationale for the August milk price cut. And in announcing that price cut last week, the Dairygold chairperson, Pat Clancy, said there had been a dramatic deterioration in global dairy prices over the last 3 or 4 weeks. Increased global milk supply and weaker consumer sentiment have seen key Dairygold products, especially butter and cheese, fall by well over 3 cents a litre. And he said, based on dairy market futures, this downward trend is projected to continue into the first quarter of next year. And he said that the speed and timing and extent of the market falls is challenging as they emerge after the peak processing period, with seasonally higher stock levels exposed to these declining market returns. He also pointed to the fact that there is evidence in the marketplace of inventory being offloaded, putting further pressure on returns then. So last Friday, in response to the move to cut the milk price, over 200 farmers gathered outside Dairygold's offices in Mitchelstown to voice their anger, to voice their concern. And the concerned Dairygold shareholders group presented a letter on behalf of member suppliers containing some 7 questions to the board of Dairygold. Now, the group of farmers has stated that 3 cents a litre price cut for August supplies has cost the average supplier €1,600 for the month. And the committee of the concerned shareholder group called for the immediate resignation of the Dairygold board of directors due to what it said was the persistent underperformance in base milk price paid to suppliers. Now, one of the members of the concerned Dairygold shareholders group, Nigel Sweetenham, told Agriland that he was floored when the milk price cut was confirmed, and he warned that farmers have been severely impacted financially by this decrease, and he fears that there's more to come. Another member of the concerned Dairygold shareholders group and former Fianna Fáil TD for Cork, Ned O'Keefe, also shared his thoughts with Agriland. Have a listen.
Well, farmers are here today because there's a massive drop in their income. Ferocious 3 cents is a massive reduction in milk this time of the year. But it should be going up rather than coming down. And we have to say that the world market is fluctuating with oversupply in New Zealand and America. But that's not our problem. Our problem here is worse than that. I mean, there has to be this rationalisation here. We have too much plant. We have over emphasis on management. And there has to be an efficiency put in place.
And that was member of the concerned Dairygold shareholders group and former Fianna Fáil TD for Cork, Ned O'Keefe, speaking there. And we will be bringing you the outcome of that meeting that's taking place in Mitchelstown at the moment on Agriland. So stay tuned for any developments from that.
Now, Aisling, Dairygold's milk price was actually part of a general downward trend this month for milk price, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think the scale of the Dairygold milk price cut, Charles, grabbed the main attention. But as you said, there was an overall downward trajectory across the majority of co-ops across Ireland for August milk. Tirlawn, Arabon, Tipperary, Kerry Dairy Ireland, Carberry, Lakeland Dairies, to name just a few, all referenced a dip in global dairy prices. And co-ops have also pointed to increased global milk supply in key markets as a major factor driving the decline in the price being paid to Irish farmers for milk supplied in August. And we also saw a slight reduction in the latest global dairy trade auction as well, which marked the 3rd decrease in a row as well. But Noel Murphy, who's the chair of the Irish Creamery Milk Supplier Association's Dairy Committee, believes that the co-ops have moved way too fast by reducing the price paid to farmers for August supplies. He pointed kind of to 2 aspects in his argument here, Charles. He said, firstly, the downturn in the market has taken place in September and not in August, to which these price cuts relate and are being applied. And he also believes that, in his opinion, there's a disparity in the approach taken by some co-ops because they can, on the one hand, claim that they've sold forward at a lower price and cannot pay suppliers in a rising market, but then they can also drop the price like a stone, he said, in a falling market. And we don't hear too much about higher forward prices then. And he said that the ICMSA will be seeking answers from co-ops as to how exactly they arrived at the kind of cuts that he said were going to be taking the order of €1,500 from the August check of an average milk supplier.
Well, we'll move on now, but stay with issues predominantly dairy. The issue of the Nitrates Action Programme and the Nitrates derogation, and Ireland's efforts to retain the derogation, is one of the key ongoing issues in Irish agriculture and will likely remain so for the foreseeable future. So, Aisling, do we have any updates on that this week?
Yeah, so it was obviously understandably a major talking point at the ploughing championships last week, Charles. And continuing into this week, Minister for Agriculture, Food and the Marine, Martin Hayden, has confirmed that the European Commissioner for the Environment is set to visit Ireland for talks on the nitrates derogation. He met with Commissioner Jessica Roswell in Brussels on Tuesday to discuss our request for a continuation of the derogation beyond the end of this year. The Minister said he emphasised the importance of the derogation to the Commissioner, and he also extended that formal invitation to come here. And the purpose of this visit, Minister Hayden said, would be for this Commissioner to view firsthand the collaborative work being done by the agri-food sector on improving water quality. And the meeting follows on from senior Commission environment officials coming to Ireland last week. And that visit included a visit to a derogation farm in County Meath as well. And the Minister said securing an extension to Ireland's nitrates derogation remains a key government priority. And that was a message that was echoed by Bill Callanan, the Chief Inspector at the Department of Agriculture this week as well, when he appeared before the Oireachtas Joint Committee on Agriculture and Food. So as we know, Charles, Ireland is seeking permission to continue applying in excess of 170 kilograms of livestock manure nitrogen per hectare from 2026 onwards as part of the derogation. Currently, the derogation is limited to 220 kg in most parts of the country and 250 in a considerably smaller part of the country. Now, the Department of Agriculture has emphasised to the Commission that the derogation facilitates and is justified by our unique grass-based outdoor livestock production system. Now, as we know, and we spoke about it last week here on the podcast, the Environmental Protection Agency recently reported that average nitrogen concentrations across 20 representative sites in rivers increased by 16% in the first half of the year compared to the same period in 2024. And that, of course, has caused concern. And Bill Callanan said that trends in water quality have to be looked at over a period of time. He said, we did have a situation of improving trends until 2015 or 2016. Then he said there was a negative trend in terms of water quality. But certainly then over the last couple of years, that has reverted to an improving trend overall. But he did say that they remained disappointed in terms of the initial data coming from the EPA for 2025. Now, Bill Callanan did give a kind of a timeline in terms of what's going on at the moment. He said, as it stands, as part of the process required in securing a derogation, Ireland has now actually made 3 presentations to the EU Nitrates Committee in Brussels, the most recent of which took place last Friday. And he told the Oireachtas Committee that if the EU Commission is satisfied with Ireland's proposals, which of course will include that Ireland must demonstrate compliance with the Habitats Directive when granting farmers a nitrates derogation, a vote on the retention of the derogation for Ireland beyond this year will then be put to member states. That vote could possibly take place in December, but it could also be pushed back to March, which would have happened previously. And Bill Callanan also gave the Oireachtas Committee an update on the wider Nitrates Action Programme. Have a listen.
We are now at the stage where Minister Hayden and Minister Brown are reflecting and finalising on the proposed measures that Minister Brown will bring forward for public consultation in the coming weeks under the Nitrates Action Programme, alongside the draft Natura Impact Statement and the draft Strategic Environmental Assessment that must accompany it. Over the coming months, the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine and the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage and broader government will all continue to work together to engage with stakeholders at a national and European level, both on the next Nitrates Action Programme and also on the nitrates derogation, and to ensure we have the best possible outcome for Ireland post-2025.
And that was Bill Callanan there, the Chief Inspector at the Department of Agriculture, Food and the Marine. And before we leave nitrates, Charles, the ICMSA met with officials from the European Commission this week over in Brussels to discuss the renewal of the derogation. And the delegation included the ICMSA President, Dennis Drennan, and they met with the Directorate General for the Environment. Those officials, I'd imagine some of those officials had come to Ireland Ireland on that official visit as well, so they'd be very familiar. And Dennis Drennan said that the Commission did acknowledge the enormous efforts being made by farmers and the wider agriculture sector, and they said that it's up to the Irish government to put the strongest case possible for its retention, he said. And he also said that the ICMSA outlined the huge efforts being made by individual farmers across Ireland, and also the whole of industry approach. And he believes that the Commission understands the unique grass-based family model of farming in Ireland and has acknowledged the efforts being made on individual farms across the country as well. So definitely a story that will be developing more over the coming weeks, Charles.
Just as we're talking about nitrates, the deadline for spreading slurry this year is Tuesday, September 30th, which means there is only a few days left to get the remaining slurry in the tanks out. So an important date to keep in mind there. And just one other quick news update before we move on to our next item, which is that the EU deforestation regulation, the EUDR, looks set to be delayed again. The measure is designed to prevent goods that come from deforested land being sold on the EU market, and it was due to come into effect on December 30th this year, which was itself a delayed date. Now the European Commission wants to push it back again by another year, and you can read why in our article on our website and app. But moving on, an independent TD brought forward a private member's bill in the Dáil this week to address the issue of trespassing on land. Aisling, can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, it's something unfortunately we're very much aware of on Agriland, Charles. Trespassing on farms, it has become a major problem for farmers in parts of the country. We've seen activities such as illegal lurching and the unauthorised use of quads, scramblers and motorbikes on agricultural land as well. And as you said, this week, independent TD for Offaly, Carol Nolan, brought forward a private member's bill on the issue of farm trespassing. And she said that the legislation is aimed at addressing the offence of trespassing on farm and agricultural land. So this bill actually seeks to amend Section 13 of the current Criminal Justice Act of 1994. So the current wording of that section says it shall be an offence for a person without reasonable excuse to trespass on any building or the curtilage thereof in such a manner as causes or is likely to cause fear in another person. So in legal terminology, a curtilage is any land immediately surrounding a house or other building which forms an enclosure around the house, but it doesn't actually refer to land beyond that, such as farmland. So this bill would amend the 1994 Act. So the section would actually say it shall be an offence for a person without reasonable excuse to trespass on any building or other land thereof in such a manner as causes or is likely to cause fear in another person. So Deputy Nolan said that if this bill is accepted, she believes it will introduce a greater level of legal clarity for farmers and landowners, and it would also significantly expand the scope of the physical area that would be captured within the laws of trespass. And she believes that this bill is simply seeking to broaden the scope of the existing legislation to capture not just land on which farm buildings and the curtilage of buildings are situated, but all of the farm and agricultural land. So, Charles, the bill was not opposed by the government at first stage on Wednesday, meaning that it'll now move on. So we'll keep a very close eye on it because it is a real talking point. We saw last week at the National Ploughing Championships the launch of the Rural Safety Plan for the next 2 years, and the issue of trespass is covered in that. And as part of the launch at the ploughing, the Deputy President of the Irish Farmers Association, Alice Doyle, appealed to farmers not to confront aggressive trespassers on their land. And she said that trespassing is a huge issue which is increasing for rural people and in particular farmers. And she said a lot of people are being intimidated. She said we've seen videos on social media where people have put up how seriously they have been intimidated. There's been property damage done as a result of trespassers coming onto private property. She said there's been animals affected. In lamb ewes and in calf cows have been chased by dogs that have been brought onto land by people trespassing. And she said it is becoming a very serious issue. So I think this is a very useful piece of legislation, and we'll see how it progresses, Charles.
Now, Aisling, this isn't the only time that the issue of trespassing on land came up among TDs this week. A Clare TD said something too that's very interesting, and I suppose, if what he's saying is the case, distressing as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yes, Charles. So this warning came from Fianna Fáil TD Cathal Crowe, who is a farmer himself, and he's taken to social media telling farmers in Clare to be on the lookout for other farmers who he is alleging are trying to bring down the value of land by encouraging other people to put horses and ponies into fields and then placing locks on the gates. So he said that it's been brought to his attention that a small number of farmers are trying to frustrate land sales and drive down prices by encouraging people to take over neighbouring fields. And he claimed that this is being done to force the farmers who own the land to sell up or to drive down the price of land that's for sale by making it a less desirable purchase. And he said this alleged practice is the very opposite of that concept of the mehel. And essentially, he believes it's farmers turning on each other and making life really difficult for each other. And he said he's been told on many occasions in recent weeks of instances where farmers invite people to come in and graze on the land of another farm in the locality. They tell them to come, put your horses and ponies in there and put a lock on the gate, he said. And he described the practice as reprehensible. And he said, as a farm community, that we've faced many challenges over the years. And he did point to the centuries of occupation of our lands as well. And he said that farmers went to prison over the years, standing up for each other and fighting for the rights to have land and to own it without condition. So he's called on farmers to stand up for each other in the spirit of mehel, and he's appealed to anybody who's aware of this alleged practice to report it to the guards, because he said he's a politician and, you know, it's useful for him to hear these things, but he has no power to investigate or enforce legislation in this area. So he has encouraged people to go to the guards, and he did say that it's known about in County Clare, but he believes the practice isn't unique to his county and is going on elsewhere. So yeah, a very interesting story coming out of Clare this week.
Moving on now to the issue of bird flu or avian influenza, and a number of cases have been confirmed in County Cork, Aisling. What are the details?
Yes, so on Tuesday, Charles, Cork City Council confirmed that a number of cases of bird flu had been identified at the Loch Bird Sanctuary. It's a rather lovely part of the city that I know well. And the council said that bird flu is currently circulating in wild birds there, and it has been detected following tests on a number of birds which were found dead at the loch. Now, it's issued a warning for anybody visiting the area to avoid contact with sick or dead wild birds, and a temporary ban on fishing has been introduced as well at the amenity, and the bird feeder has been decommissioned temporarily as well as a precaution. Now, the council said that agreed protocols are in place to ensure the swift removal of sick or dead birds from the area. And following that announcement, the IFA's poultry chair, Nigel Sweetnam, said that bird flu is arriving earlier this season and with greater intensity. He actually sits on the Copa Cogeca Working Party on Poultry. Of course, Copa Cogeca, that European umbrella group representing farmers and agri-cooperatives, and he was saying that he's encouraging everybody now to act and to tighten up your biosecurity if needed. And he said any potential gap in biosecurity is a risk to your flock and to the wider poultry sector as well. And he pointed to the fact that avian influenza has returned with renewed force across Europe, and it's prompted the EU Commission to prolong emergency measures against the disease until September of next year. So as Nigel Sweetnam said, Charles, any small biosecurity improvements can be made now, and they can potentially prevent a catastrophic outbreak later of bird flu. And it's definitely something we're always vigilant about in this country. And regardless of what size flock you have, it's definitely worth having a look at what arrangements you have in place to prevent any bird flu infecting your birds.
Finally this week, next month will see the return of the hugely popular All-Ireland Hedge Laying Championships. Aisling, what do people need to know if they want to attend?
Okay, so Charles, hedge laying, if for people who don't know, it's a highly skilled traditional craft, and it ensures healthy and abundant hedgerows, and it involves the careful cutting and weaving of branches. It's really an art, and you can see a photo of it on Agriland's website and app. So as you said, there's a championship for this, and people compete across the island, and the championships will take place this year on Saturday, October 18th in Ballytrim Road in Downpatrick in County Down, and it will attract competitors from across the island Ireland. Now, Hedgerows Ireland said that laid hedges can sequester carbon, provide greater benefits for animals, birds and insects, and create livestock-proof barriers as well. Now, the championships traditionally take place on a working farm, and this year it is no different. The championships are going to be hosted by the Cunninghams, who have farmed for generations at the Ballytrim site, and up to 15 hedge laying competitors across a number of categories are going to be battling it out. But the experts are ultimately vying for the All-Ireland trophy, and it was won last year in Kildare by Brendan Redden, and the overall runner-up prize went to Robert Hogg. So the standard was very high last year, Charles, and I've no doubt it will be the same. So if you want to go along to the event, admission is free and there's car parking on site as well, we're told. So October 18th from 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. there'll be other traditional crafts on show as well, and no doubt it'll be amazing to see those experts tackling the hedgerows in such an amazing way over the couple of hours, and we wish them all the very best of luck.
That's almost all we have time for. Before we go, we just want to let you know that the latest instalment of Agriland's Farm Safe, Farm Well series is now available on our website and app, and features farmer David Callan, who recounts being attacked by a bull in 2018. We at Agriland also want to take this moment to extend our sympathies to the family and friends of Ned Harty, the founder of Dairymaster, who passed away last week. But that does bring us to the end of this week's podcast. Please don't forget to rate, review and follow The Farming Week on Spotify, Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. We'd love if you could spare some time to give us 5 stars and share The Farming Week with anyone you think might be interested. From Aisling, Hugh and myself, take care.
This podcast is sponsored by AXA Farm Insurance. AXA offers tailored cover to fit your unique needs, whether it's public liability or protection for your family home, outbuildings or farm vehicles. Based in Athlone, the AXA Farm team of agri-specialists and regional managers work together to ensure you receive the seamless support you need. Switching to AXA is easy thanks to an innovative online service that enables you to quickly and easily find the best cover for your needs. For more information, head to AXA.ie. AXA Insurance Stack is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.